And if we ever mess up, I can just cut it out.
They're probably gonna be like, this girl is leaving all this skin on this chicken. But sometimes I just do that.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we have a mukbang and my friend Erica. She's from my cohort.
Hi.
And today we're going to be eating some velocity wings. We have 4 different types of chicken and sauces, some Southwest egg rolls, and some celery and carrots. And water. This is water, seltzer. And while we're eating, we're going to answer some of your questions and just general questions about school psychology. But I'm really hungry, so I'm gonna start eating.
Okay. I'm gonna try this, and then I'm gonna do this, and then try this habanero sauce.
I honestly don't remember which ones I ordered. I just know there is a mango habanero. There's a lemon pepper and a barbecue.
Okay. Let's see. That's good. That's good.
The egg roll?
Yeah. When they said that that's a favorite, that could be my favorite. Yep. That's really good.
All right. So the first question we have is, why did you choose this field?
Okay. Well, I chose school psychology because during undergrad, I majored in psychology and I added a second major, education. And I was taking a class, human development, and it was taught by a retired school psychologist. And he kind of convinced me to use both areas and to look into school psych, and so I did.
So, did you know you wanted to do this in undergrad?
No. In undergrad, I thought that I was just gonna do something in psychology. I really didn't know what. I thought about being like a psychologist, seeing clients and doing psychotherapy and all of that jazz, but it never was like me. Like, I felt like it was just something that I was like, well, I'm a psychology major, this is what I have to do. But when I got into education and I realized that there are psychologists who are real scientists in education, then I was kind of like, okay. And that wasn't until like my senior year when I had already agreed to start teaching and stuff. So yeah,
I feel like a lot of people don't know what it is until someone tells them about it. It's like an unknown field. And for me, I graduated with a psych degree, like a psych and business degree. I jumped into like behavior therapy after graduating because I was like, oh, like this is a psych related field and they're hiring me full time. And so I worked for a year, and then I actually worked in the education field for 2 years, like helping run a private school. And then I found school psychology, and I was like, oh my gosh, what a perfect mesh of the two things that I enjoy doing and that I think I'm good at doing compared to other things that I've studied before. Second question, why did you choose Mason, George Mason University?
Well, I chose George Mason because on the interview day, well, I chose to apply to Mason because when I looked on NASP, it was one of those programs that was listed in my area. So of course I was going to apply to something like, that was close.
Proximity, like location?
Yeah, in the same state. I was looking to stay in the same state, but I didn't mind moving from city to city. And so I applied to Mason, and then when I met some of the core faculty, I really knew that they had my best interests at heart. I feel like what I wanted to do aligned with their values and their program and how they train, and so I was just like, this is it, this is for me.
That's so important though, like finding a program that fits you, like your personality and what you want to study and like your goals. But it's kind of hard to determine that before starting the program.
It really is. It really is. When we first met at interview, we connected, and then I kind of felt like it was still a connection even when I had left, checking in, seeing if I had any concerns. And I did have some concerns, and kind of being there every step of the way to help me. And that was kind of just like phenomenal. I felt like, who else is going to take this step to help me? And I didn't even say yes to you. So
yeah, I don't have any cool story like that. Mine was just in state, and it was just easy. I don't want to say it was easy. It was convenient, and it was in state. And I think when it's in state, you just feel like a stronger tie to the school and the program, and like the school, like the state's association.
Right.
So like we have a classmate who's from a different state, and she doesn't want to go to like Virginia's like school psychology association meeting because she doesn't feel a tie to the state, and she doesn't want to stay here. Whereas I feel like Virginia's my home. Plus in-state tuition, you can't ignore
That's
that.
always a plus.
Yeah.
That's a real plus.
Tuition's expensive.
It is.
Grad school is really expensive. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. How is the course load? How much are you studying during the week? What should you expect as a school psychology grad student?
Well, I guess it would depend on the type of learner that you are. I am someone who likes to sit in the classroom, listen to the things that are said, and then go home and read the book to kind of give me further understanding. But sometimes that does not always work because we have in-class discussions. So I find myself studying or reading at least an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours a night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, not Friday. What about you?
It depends. When I feel like there's not a lot of reading due and there's no like pressing assignments, sometimes I won't really do my assignments. But of course, like I want to be prepared for class. So if I can, then I'll catch up on my reading before class so I can join discussion. It's always a better class if you know what they're talking about.
It really is though.
And sometimes there are professors that call you and put you on the spot, and you have to have something to say.
Yeah, that's very true, because in undergrad you could kind of hide behind numbers or something else, but when the professor knows your name, and specifically if they know your interests, like if it's, say you're really interested in reading and the article is about reading, they're going to ask you, what do you think about this?
They do that all the time.
All the time. So you gotta stay prepared. You got to. Yeah.
I think like hour to 2 hours a day is reasonable. Even if you're just looking through your notes or like skimming your reading, an hour, it flies by.
It does. I don't feel like it's very time consuming. And then it really, so our first semester was more so a lot of lecturing, but now that we've entered the second year, it's less lecture and more applied. So I find myself not studying as much because I've already studied these things and now we're applying. So I'm just looking back at my notes to see what's related with what I'm about to do, instead of having the book, writing notes, highlighting, and things like that.
I think now I end up spending more time preparing for the applied portion. So if we're going to do some testing,
Right.
I have to take time to prepare for that. So when we're in front of a client or a kid or a parent, we know what we're doing. And it's like very nerve-wracking, but you feel so much better if you took that time to prepare. And that takes me a long time. The thing is, I put more time and effort into that.
Yeah. But I do agree that preparing for an assessment and preparing for a consultation and knowing what you're going to say will help you in preventing having that moment where the client is gone and now you don't have an answer, and really you prefer not to discuss things over the phone. So now what do you do?
This is good. So what are some things that you do outside of class, other than studying and being in class? Like, do you work, extracurriculars? Do you have time to work?
Well, outside of class, I do typically 2 things. I do research on campus with 2 separate labs. And then outside of my research, I have an assistantship on campus. An assistantship is something that they offer to graduate students to offset their tuition. So they offer a stipend and a tuition grant. And so with that, I work on campus in an office that basically puts on all the events that you see on campus. They also help to plan homecoming. That's where all the registered student organizations are housed. That's where all fraternity and sorority life are housed. So I'm like in the campus event type of thing. So that's what I typically do outside of class. Of course, I hang out with family and friends and things like that. But yeah.
It's a lot that you do outside of class.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that I'm saying it, I'm like, that's a lot. Like, yeah, it is. Most graduate assistantships are very lenient on their graduate students because they understand that you're there for school and that's your first priority. So
are you required to do 20 hours?
Yeah, I'm required to do 20 hours a week.
What happens if you don't?
I've never honestly asked that. So what do you do outside of class?
I used to have 2 jobs. First semester of our program, I was a waitress for the first time. It was really hard. I think everyone should work in retail or a restaurant once in their life. And I also worked at a private school as a program director. And I also play flag football on like a county team. And then, you know, I'll be like involved in church. We'll like do small group meetings every week. I serve at church every Sunday. I'm a greeter. And then friends and family. Oh, and right now I'm wedding planning.
Yeah.
So that's been keeping me really busy. Yeah. But this semester I quit all my jobs. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. It's been like a very weird transition because I've been at the school for so long. I don't know, I felt like very guilty leaving, but they're doing very well. I just needed to like step back and like take time for myself and like focus on school. And because our internship is coming up so soon, I definitely want to put more focus on that. Like our interviews are very soon. I think one of the counties, they interview like the first week of November.
Whoa.
I'm trying to do more CAP cases, so I want to do more like testing and assessments in my free time to get more practice in and to make some money.
Yeah. Definitely. And trying like new assessments that you typically don't do. Yeah.
It seems like they use a lot of different ones in the schools compared to what we're used to.
Yeah. And you don't want to get rusty on things because you learned it and practiced on it like 4 months ago. Yeah. And then now you're looking at it 5 months after like, yeah.
You want to talk about the classes?
Sure. Is that the lightning round?
All right, we're going to talk about some of our classes.
Yeah.
So, what was the easiest class so far? I guess that would just be our first year fall, spring, and summer. Out of those, because we really don't know for this semester yet.
So I have 2. They are a tie. One is the...
I'm very curious.
One is definitely the class where all we did was go into the school and shadow and reflect. That definitely, I was like, is this what grad school is? Is that we do
I love that class.
I was like, this is easy. And we just write reflections about how we felt and all that. So I was like, yeah, this is easy. And the other easy class I found was actually ABA.
Really?
Yeah, I found that class to be
interesting.
Very easy. But that's because it's a lot about classroom management. And I was like, oh, I got that. Classroom management in the bag.
I would have to say, either that class, the Friday class, or practicum class. So the practicum class, every week we would have to go into the schools for like 6 to 8 hours and just shadow a school psychologist. And then we would have to write reflections. So like how we felt, what we learned that week. I mean, the writings were pretty easy. I think the hardest part is like building rapport with your psychologist or like getting everything scheduled. And that does take a lot of soft skills.
Yeah.
That was a really good class. It was pretty easy, other than the time commitment. That was kind of hard. And then, do you remember it was like the intro to school psych class. Like roles and...
Role and function.
Yes, role and function.
Yeah.
That class...
Easy.
I thought it was pretty easy.
That was easy.
It was like an overview of school psychology, and even though we had like a lot of busy work, it wasn't difficult. I thought, I learned a lot. I didn't really know about the field. All right, hardest class you've taken so far? I have my answer.
I would have to say probably advanced assessment.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Because so we had a different professor. So that class was the first class that we had with someone new, and the way that professor, their training was different. So I kind of had to shake my mind a little bit and learn a different way. I thought it was challenging because the class was only 6 weeks, 4 weeks,
5.
Yeah.
It was really short.
It was a lot to get done, a lot to learn in such a short amount of time that I felt like it was so challenging. That was challenging for me. I would go home and I would study. What about you?
I was gonna say just regular cognitive assessment.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like grade wise, it was fine.
Yeah.
Like, I never struggled through like the testing part, but I really had to stay on top of it.
Oh,
they never really
yes.
like taught us how to do it. You just have to go and read the manual and just do it. And so that was really challenging because I wasn't sure if I was doing everything right. One of the sessions were videotaped. I'm glad we went through all of that. It was a lot, especially for first semester. We took it first semester, right? Yeah. I was like, what is this? I didn't know like we're going to start doing this now. It was like the first like few weeks of school.
Yeah.
So do you have any tips for undergraduate students or like grad students who are starting now in school psychology?
So if I were giving a tip to the first years, I would say to read your material and to get a planner. A planner is so essential when you start to make appointments, but you also have assignments due, and you also have class, and you also have your extra whatever you're doing to kind of see your month out. That would be my advice for first years, and to keep an open mind and don't come in there thinking, oh, this is what I saw here, this is it, this is the end all be all. So we just take things here and there and kind of make it our own.
Yeah, the world is bigger than what we think of it.
And then for undergrads, if you're interested in school psych but you really don't know if it's really for you, I would say to maybe volunteer in a school. There are different programs, especially at the undergraduate level, that have their clubs that do mentorships with students in schools. There are programs at schools where you can do read alouds.
Yeah, I think classroom observations is a really good one. A lot of people, they think they know what's going on in a school, but they have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that goes on.
There's a lot that goes on in a school. So that's really good.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And we'll see you guys next time.
See you. Bye.